Hello everyone, welcome to week 4 of our subject, Dispute Resolution and Crisis Incident Management. Our topic for today, the PNP Critical Incident Management. We are going to discuss the role of the PNP in disaster management, identify acronyms and definition of terms related to disaster management. The Philippines, due to its geographical location, is affected by natural occurrences of typhoons, volcanic eruption, earthquakes, floodings, land erosions, and other natural calamities. The degradation and abuse of the environment and climate change also contributed to increasing challenges and more severe disasters that resulted to enormous loss of lives and properties, impacting heavily on our national economy and development. Such events cannot be prevented. However, the PNP can initiate activities to mitigate the impact and prevent or minimize the loss of lives and properties. This is through timely preparation in close coordination between and among the various offices and units concerned. These are of utmost importance in providing efficient and effective response during natural calamities and in adequately addressing this imminent threat of global warming. The creation of the PNP Disaster Response Checklist is a clear manifestation of the PNP enduring commitment to ensure that every police enforcer, from the national headquarters down to the lowest units, will be guided in providing proper and timely response during and after the occurrence of natural calamity. We have here the definition of terms that will help us understand and guide us as we go on with our discussion. We have adaptation. This is the adjustment in natural or human systems in response to actual or expected climatic stimuli or their effects, which motivates harm or exploits beneficial opportunities. Community-based disaster risk reduction and management. This is a process of disaster risk reduction and management in which at-risk communities are actively engaged in the identification, analysis, treatment, monitoring, and evaluation of disaster risk in order to reduce their vulnerabilities and enhance their capacities, and where the people are at the heart of decision making and implementation of disaster risk reduction and management activities. So ang mga community po ang concerned dito. Sila yung mag-a-identify ng disaster risk, no, sa kanilang lugar, and they are going to help in the decision making and implementation of disaster risk. Then we have the word disaster, a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts, which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. So talagang hindi na kinakaya ng certain place yung disaster na nangyari sa kanila. Tulad halimbawa, yung mga malawakang flood, no? Kung saan grabing lumulubog ang kanilang lugar, mga kabahayan, yung lahat na ari-arian, mga taniman. So, they have difficulty, no, in coping, and they needed the help of the government as well as other agencies and organizations that have the capability of extending help. Disaster mitigation, this is the lessening or limitation of the adverse impacts of hazards and related disasters. Then disaster preparedness, the knowledge and capacities developed by governments, professional, response and recovery organizations, communities and individuals to effectively anticipate, respond to, and recover from the impacts of likely, imminent, or current hazard events or conditions. Okay, so ito yung mga paghahanda na ginagawa ng ating gobyerno. Professional response and recovery organizations as well as communities and individuals. So, tulungan ito. Disaster prevention, the outright avoidance of adverse impacts of hazards and related disasters. So, maraming paraan ang pwedeng gawin para ma-prevent kahit man lamang ilan sa mga disaster na yearly nating nararanasan. Halimbawa, yung flood, no? So, we have learned so many things on how we can also prevent flood. Yung hindi natin pagkalbo sa ating kagubatan, yung pagiging malinis natin sa ating kapaligiran, hindi yung basta-basta na lang natin itinatapon ang ating mga basura at kapag may bagyo, pabalik din sa atin yung ating mga basura. Yung pagiging malinis natin, lalo na sa panahong ito ng pandemic. Disaster response, this is the provision of emergency services and public assistance during or immediately after a disaster in order to save lives, reduce health impacts, ensure public safety, and meet the basic subsistence needs of the people affected. So ang nangyayari sa atin ngayon, ang pinakamalaking disaster or crisis na naranasan natin, no? Wherein dumadami ang ating mga COVID patients and yung prevention na nakikita is yung mga magbigay ng mga patakaran or guidelines, no? Magbigay ng mga lockdown, ECQ, GCQ, no? Para ang mga tao ay mag-stay sa kanilang bahay para hindi sila makahawa o sila ang hawaan, no? And experience natin nung unang taon ng pandemic at nagkaroon ng mga ganitong pangyayari, there is restraint of movements, ay nagbigay naman ng gobyerno ng mga ayuda, no? Para sa ganun ay kahit hindi makapagtrabaho ang mga tao, at least meron silang kakainin, no? So this is about the most serious disaster or crisis na hinaharap natin ngayon. Disaster risk, the potential disaster losses in lives, health status, livelihood, assets, and services, which could occur to a particular community or a society over some specified future time period. So, ang mga yan ay mga floods, mga earthquakes, erosion of volcanic eruption, I should say, no? So, may mga specified period dyan at eventually, through the help of the government at ang mga specific agencies, no? Nakaka-cope up at nakaka-rise up muli ang mga tao. Disaster risk reduction. This is the concept and practice of reducing disaster risk through systematic efforts to analyze and manage the causal factors of disasters, including thorough reduced exposures to hazards, lessen vulnerability of people and property, wise management of land and the environment, and improve preparedness for adverse events. Then you have disaster risk reduction and management. This is the systematic process of using administrative directives, organizations, and operational skills and capacities to implement strategies, policies, and improve coping capacities in order to lessen the adverse impacts of hazards and the possibility of disaster. Then we have early warning system. This is the set of capacities needed to generate and disseminate timely and meaningful warning information to enable individuals, communities, and organizations threatened by a hazard to prepare and to act appropriately and in sufficient time to reduce the possibility of harm or loss. Tulad halimbawa, again doon sa flood, no? Merong mga early warning system na ginagawa ang ating mga kapulisan. Yun yung pag-a-announce sa mga tao, mag-i-evacuate na sila sa mga safe area para hindi na hintayin, no? Yung tubig na aabot sa kanila. Okay? And of course, kapag may mga bagyo na malalakas, di ba? Meron tayong mga warning na ibinibigay ng mga Pag-asa, ganun, para ma-prepare natin na halimbawa na i-fix ang bahay natin, diba? Maghanda ng makakain, mga gamot, yung mga ganun. Emergency, this is the unforeseen or sudden occurrence, especially danger, that demands immediate action. And hazard, a dangerous phenomenon, substance, human activity, or condition that may cause loss of life, injury, or other health impacts, property damage, loss of livelihood in services, social and economic disruption, or environmental damage. Then we have mitigation. This is the structural and non-structural measures undertaken to limit the adverse impact of natural hazards, environmental degradation, and technological hazards, and to ensure the ability of at-risk communities to address vulnerabilities aimed at minimizing the impact of disasters. Okay? Preparedness. These are pre-disaster actions and measures being undertaken within the context of disaster risk reduction in management and are based on sound risk analysis as well as pre-disaster activities to avert or minimize loss of life and property, such as community organizing, training, planning, equipping, stockpiling, hazard mapping, ensuring of assets and public administration, and education initiatives. Okay? So, yung training, diba? May mga training na ibinibigay for us to be prepared. Halimbawa, kung may sudden fire, kung may earthquake, okay? Rehabilitation. These are measures that ensure the ability of affected communities or areas to restore their normal level of functioning by rebuilding livelihood and damaged infrastructures and increasing the community's organizational capacity. Okay? Kung paano sila makakabangon, no? Marirebuild yung livelihood, paano lang nila ibabalik, i-fix yung mga nasira. Okay? So, sandali. And then we have the term response, any concerted effort by two or more agencies, public or private, to provide assistance or intervention during or immediately after a disaster to meet the life preservation in basic subsistence needs of those people affected and in the restoration of essential public activities and facilities. Meron naman pong mga ibinibigay na tulong ng gobyerno, no, sa mga sobrang apektado sa mga ganitong crisis or disaster. And even during, no, the agency that I know, very active ang ating Bureau of Fire Protection kasi isa yan na programa nila sa pag-save, no? At pag-responde sa mga taong nalalagay sa panganib during calamities. Then we have risk, the combination of the probability of an event in its negative consequences. Then we have state of calamity, a condition involving mass casualty or major damages to property, disruption of means of livelihoods, roads and normal way of life of people in the affected areas as a result of the occurrence of natural or human-induced hazard. Then we have the search and rescue operation. It is the search for and provision of aid to people who are in distress or imminent danger. Ito yung ginagawa ng mga taga Bureau of Fire Protection. And pagkatapos ng search and rescue, then ginagawa din nila yung search and retrieval operation. This is the search for the property or human remains after a natural or man-made disaster occurred in a particular area. Halimbawa, yung mga bumagsak na helicopter or aeroplano, no? Or yung mga natabunan ng landslide. Okay? Next, we have safety and response general guidelines for all PNP units kasi they are the one involved during these times. Security and safety of personnel must always be considered in the conduct of disaster response operations. All PNP units, officers shall train their men on disaster incident management using their available resources. All responding units shall operate on their existing logistical and financial allocation. On the other hand, the National Headquarters PNP shall provide additional logistics and financial support on a case-to-case basis. And then timely reports on disaster operations to include report on the extent, nature, and location of damages should be immediately relayed to higher headquarters in local and the RRMC. PNP personnel shall wear the standards PNP search and rescue attire while performing disaster response operations. Coordination between echelons of the civil organization and military units is encouraged. So, hindi lang yung mga PNP ang nakikita natin, no, sa oras ng kalamidad, but also the military. Level of response of all task group shall be done as much as possible at the lowest level and only seek assistance to the next level when resources like manpower and material are not enough to manage the disaster incident. The adjacent PNP units or stations which are not affected by the disaster shall immediately respond and assist the severely affected area. So ito yung ginawa ng ating mga taga BFP, Tabuk BFP unit nung sobrang lumubog ang Tugigaraw, di ba? So they also responded at tumulong. Only the designated public information officer of the PNP unit concerned is authorized to release information to the media. However, unit commanders may issue relevant statement and information to the media as the situation may require. PNP units, offices, and personnel must have reliable alternate communication equipment to ensure a 24-hour connectivity. PNP offices or units are encouraged to acquire additional search and rescue equipment as may deem suitable in their peculiar requirement. We will move on to PNP flooding incident response checklist. So floods, no? This is the most frequent and costly natural disaster. Conditions that cause floods include heavy or steady rain for several hours or days that saturate the ground. Plus floods occur suddenly due to rapidly rising water along a stream or low-lying area. So, preparations upon receipt of flood warning by the PNP. Halimbawa, may warning na flooding will occur soon in the area. So the PNP will coordinate with the local disaster risk reduction and management council uh, on, on that certain municipality or city and PAG-ASA. Alert residents through previously established warning system. So iikot na ang mga yan. Gamit ang patrol cars, sirens, or ringing of church bells, or use of megaphones. Then, preemptive evacuation of residents, ito na yung sinasabi ko, in flood-prone areas, in coordination with concerned agencies. Institute police visibility in vacated areas. Kasi, ang nangyayari kung minsan, kapag binabakit yung area, instead na tumulong, meron pa rin yung mga masasamang loob na rinaransak nila yung lugar na magnanakaw ang mga yan. Siyempre kapag biglaan yung pagbakit kasi nandyan na, may mga naiiwan na kagamitan. Yun yung pinupuntirya. So kinakailangan ng police that will, of course, man the area. Provide security at designated evacuation centers. So, yun na naman. Kailangan din nila ng seguridad sa mga evacuation centers. As the situation may require, activate disaster incident management task group. This is as per letter of instruction, Saklolo. Ensure readiness of the search and rescue equipment and supplies tulad ng rubber boat, utility rope, floating device, multi-tool items, flashlights with extra battery, communications equipment, first aid kit, sugar high food, at marami pang iba. So what are the actions during flooding incident? Assist in the imposition of forced relocation of remaining residents to evacuation centers in coordination with the local DRRMC. Deploy search and rescue assets for timely and rapid disaster response. Maintain contact with lower adjacent and higher units. Conduct search and rescue operations. Assist concerned agencies in the conduct of medical assistance. Adjacent PNP units, offices should be coordinated or contacted to assist severely affected areas until such time that the local police units affected have recovered from the disaster and are ready to handle the incident. Actions after the flooding incident. So anong gagawin ng ating kapulisan? Assist in the conduct of relief operations in coordination with concerned agencies. Ang City Hall, ang DSWD, yan yung mga nagbibigay ng mga relief aid. Assist concerned agencies in the conduct of medical assistance. Ensure continued presence of security personnel in evacuation centers. Assist in the clearing of major routes from debris and obstacles. Provide traffic assistance along critical routes and allow residents to return home only when officials have declared the area is safe. Now let us proceed to earthquake, kanina flood. Ngayon naman earthquake. PNP Earthquake Safety and Response Checklist. So ano ba yung earthquake? An earthquake is a sudden, rapid shaking of the earth caused by the breaking and shifting of rock beneath the earth's surface. Earthquakes strike suddenly without warning, and they can occur at any time of the year, day, or night. The geographical location of the Philippines being situated between the Pacific and Eurasian plates makes it a constant target of highly destructive natural disasters and calamities such as earthquakes. So, a reminder, doorways are no stronger, are no stronger than any other part of the structure. During an earthquake, get under a solid piece of furniture and hold on. This will provide some protection from falling objects that can injure you during an earthquake. As earthquakes occur without warning, preparations are very critical to lessen its impact. So preparations that a PNP member or unit should do: establishment of primary and secondary evacuation centers in coordination with concerned agencies and local government units. Capability and capacity enhancement like earthquake drills and simulation exercises and inventory of search and rescue equipment. Meetings and coordination with concerned agencies and LGUs, public information effort on earthquake preparations through community visits, identify safe places in your home or workplace, practice drop, cover, and hold under a piece of furniture against an interior wall, away from windows, bookcases, or tool furniture that could fall on you. Ensure readiness of the search and rescue equipment and supplies. Next are the actions during earthquakes incident. So, ito ay paalaala sa ating lahat. If you are inside a building, drop, cover, and hold. Move as little as possible. Stay away from windows to avoid injured by shattered glass. Stay indoors until the shaking stops and you are sure if it is safe to exit. If you must leave the building after the shaking stops, use stairs rather than an elevator in case there are aftershocks, power, power outrages, or other damage. If you are outdoor when the earthquake occurs, find a clear spot away from buildings, power lines, trees, street lights, and drop to the ground. Stay there until the shaking stops. If you are in a vehicle, pull over to a clear location and stop. Avoid bridges, overpasses, and power lines if possible. Stay inside with your seatbelt fastened until the shaking stops. Then drive carefully, avoiding bridges and ramps that may have been damaged. If a power line falls on your vehicle, do not get out. Wait for assistance. Baka si kamot ti makuryente. If you are in a mountainous area or near unstable slopes or cliffs, be alert for falling rocks and other debris. Landslides are often triggered by earthquakes. Mobilize search and rescue assets for disaster response in search and rescue operations. Assist concerned agencies in the conduct of medical assistance. Maintain contact with lower adjacent and higher units. adjacent PNP units offices to assist severely affected areas, employments of alarm system like police sirens, ringing of church bells, megaphones, whistles for preemptive evacuation, especially in beachfront areas as tsunami may occur. All PNP units in affected areas shall be on full disaster response status until the situation normalizes. Activation of respective DIMTGs following the level of activation as per letter of instruction, SACLOLO. Establishment of command post by task groups whose area is hit by the earthquake. Provide security at evacuation centers. Provide traffic advisory to prevent motorists from entering the danger zone restricted areas. So after the earthquake incident, ano nang gagawin? Expect and prepare for potential aftershocks, landslides, or even tsunami. Each time you feel an aftershock, drop, cover, and hold on. Aftershocks frequently occur minutes, days, weeks, and even months following an earthquake. Assist in the conduct of relief operations in coordination with concerned agencies. Assist concerned agencies in the conduct of medical assistance. Ensure continued presence of security personnel in evacuation centers. Assist in the clearing of major routes from debris and obstacles. Provide traffic assistance along critical routes. Allow residents to return home only when officials have declared the area safe. Okay, so this ends our discussion for today. For your activities, I gave you a pure essay type, no? So these 4 essays will be answered by your thorough uh, reading of your module, and of course, when you uh, attended or viewed the discussion a while ago. I will also require you to refer to the suggested readings so that you will have an additional input. So, thank you and good day until the next lesson.